What's going on, everybody? As you can see, we had some snow overnight. Just a dusting, about 1.5 inches, I think they said, is what we ended up with. And they kind of decided it was going to snow pretty late. They went back and forth on if we were going to get any, and then it was just supposed to be a dusting, and then certain areas of the state got a little bit more than others. But as you can see, we're grazing this morning. This is the front 2.5 acres. This was the pasture that I grazed, stockpile grazed in November. And if you recall, I actually back fenced them. So I knew that, one, I didn't want them to go back and regraze what they had already had access to for the full 30 days that it took them to get through this 2.5 acres. I didn't want them to go back and regraze because we had a very mild November, and I was afraid that the grass wasn't fully dormant. And we even had some rain and some nice days that I thought it was probably actually going to try and regrow a little bit. So I back fenced them as I worked my way from the southern edge here where the cows are at all the way through the north to the other permanent fence line over there. Back fence them so they wouldn't go back and regraze what might still be growing. You know, that's obviously just going to set that grass back even more in the spring, deplete the energy stores. If it's not dormant and you take second and third bites of that grass, it's not good for it. We have some decent stuff popping through. Again, this is really just a dusting out here, 1.5 inches, and some of this grass is actually still pretty green, so the cows were pretty pumped to get on here. And actually what I did this morning is I had to feed hay. I was on shift yesterday, so like I said, the snow kind of snuck up on us when I got home. The cows were very upset. I don't think they got enough to eat yesterday, or if they did, it definitely was starting to wear off by early morning, because as soon as I came down the driveway, they were kind of yelling and screaming at me. So I still had to set up my poly wire. There we go. Set up my poly wire around the backyard by the house. And so, yeah, when I got home, the cows were obviously hungry. They were kind of upset with me. And so I just went ahead and tossed them a bale, knowing that I wasn't going to get that poly wire set up right away. The reason why I do set that poly wire up is really just to keep them away from the house. You know, the deck is right there. There was a few winters in the past where I didn't bother putting that poly wire up, and they had access to this front pasture all throughout the winter. And they hung out underneath the deck. They hung out around the house to kind of get out of the wind on some days. And they were rubbing on the deck. They kind of, messed up our deck railing a little bit. And there was even earlier this year, this calf here, when they had access to this front 2.5 acres. I actually caught her chewing on the siding of the house. So she kind of took some corners off the siding of our house. So I didn't want to give them access to this, to basically the house all winter. So I went ahead and put up the poly wire, and that's going to stay up. That's going to stay up all year. And again, it just basically hooks in. I've got a reel hooked in on that permanent fence, runs down. I've got a temporary corner post with a hook, and then I've got a second reel going from that hook up to the fence up there by the gate where the charger's at. And it's just, again, one of those little Gallagher solar chargers that I leave screwed into the fence and turned on all winter. So it usually keeps enough voltage that the cows are gonna respect that fence. They're not gonna test it. And even if the voltage drops, or sometimes the snow is a good insulator and it doesn't carry as big of a shock as it should, it's that poly wire is still a mental barrier for the cows. 9 times out of 10, they don't even bother getting close to it because they've been zapped one too many times. And I know I said it before in other videos, honestly, a lot of the time I don't even turn the fence charger on because I don't need to. The cows never even test it. So, but yeah, really good stuff here that they're getting. So I think the plan is we actually have a big snowstorm coming New Year's Day. So New Year's Day, today is Thursday. On Saturday, starting Saturday morning, they're talking in our area, we could be at 8 inches of snow, maybe even more. Kind of those locally heavy bands could pass through. So anything that they don't get to today, and I haven't decided, I'm back on shift tomorrow. I haven't decided if I'm going to give them access to this front pasture again tomorrow, or just go back to feeding the hay. But anything they don't get to today, and for sure tomorrow if they're out there, that's going to be it for the year. I mean, if we get 8 inches of snow, heck, even if we get 5 inches of snow, which is kind of the minimum they're saying, that's just going to totally cover this stuff up. And then after Saturday, so actually Saturday night, it gets to -10 degrees after the snow stops. -10 degrees. It's super cold on Sunday, and then I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday we get to like 38 or 39 degrees. So it's funny that what I was talking about in that video, the last video I put out, is going to happen, where we're going to get a lot of snow, it's going to get really cold, and then it's going to get above freezing, and some of that snow melt's going to happen. It's going to trickle down into the grass, and then it's going to refreeze after a couple 2-3 days of close to 40 degrees. It'll refreeze, and then that'll just make it one giant block of ice. And so even if we had good tall forage in here, you know, if this was another pasture that hadn't been grazed yet, after 8 inches of snow, cold temperatures, and then 3 days of above freezing, then freezing again, you know, that would have locked up any forage that we had still here. So but yeah, it's just a nice peaceful morning. I always enjoy having the snow falling and the cows grazing. We got a busy day ahead of us for sure. I've got the tractor out, kind of picking up some last minute brush piles I had sitting around the property over the year, getting those in the burn pit. I need to get the 3-point the 3-point blade hooked up for snow removal. And if I think about it, I'll take a little video of what I do, because we're on gravel out here. Our driveway is gravel. The majority of our driveway is gravel. My parents' driveway is gravel, and I do 2 neighbors as well, and their driveway is gravel. So I use a horse stall mat. I cut up a horse stall rubber mat and kind of made a blade out of that, so it takes the snow off, and when the ground is actually frozen, it takes the snow off, and it doesn't hardly take any of your rock away. So it's pretty nice. But yeah, hopefully I get home in time Saturday morning before the snow starts, and we'll probably throw out another bedding bale Saturday morning, and we're definitely going to feed a bit extra tomorrow. You know, again, like I said, -10 degrees overnight Saturday. I'm going to give them some extra feed today. I haven't decided if they're going to get hay tonight, or if I'm just going to let them clean this up as their meal for the rest of the day. But definitely extra hay tomorrow, and then extra hay Saturday, extra bedding. I'll probably even, depending on how many times they're coming in and out of that shed back there, I might even throw another bedding bale out Saturday night. In fact, I probably will, just because, like I said, -10 Saturday night, they're going to need it. So there was a comment on one of my last videos about using bedding and trying, you know, someone made the comment about trying to decide if they should put bedding out. They had some snow on the ground, and I think a lot of people, myself included, are in agreement that if you have the bedding, and it won't be a complete waste, you know, say you put it out for a day and then it gets all stomped into the mud, or it gets covered up by snow. I definitely think it's a positive thing to try and bed your animals, just because they eat far less when they can stay warm. You know, I understand this is a small herd, and regardless, not everyone has the opportunity to have a animal shelter like I've got. But a tree line or something, staying out of the wind, and getting some dry bedding, it's amazing how much less cattle will eat when they can stay dry. So that would be my reason for putting out a second bedding bale Saturday night, is, like I said, they're going to be in and out of that shed all day Saturday when the snow's coming down, which means they're going to be taking snow back in. And so the bedding bale that I put out Saturday morning will will probably get a bit saturated. So just put an extra dry bale out before the nightfall on Saturday, before those really cold temperatures come, and make sure they stay nice and warm. That'll obviously just help keep their condition on, and then that's just, you know, less feed that you have to give them to try and keep them warm. So hopefully get some good footage on Saturday of them hanging out in the snow. It always amazes me how the cows never really mind the snow and the cold temperatures. I mean, there's mornings where I'll wake up and look out my back window, and it's very, very cold, and I expect to see the cows hiding out in the shed, and they're all hanging out outside just because, you know, you get those large animals in there and they start ruminating and they're putting off body heat, and they're hanging out in that little lean-to. They get warm enough that they end up coming out, hanging out outside because it's just too dang hot in there. You know, snowing sideways, 10 degrees, and they're standing outside like it's no big deal. Definitely amazing animals. But that was all I had. Just wanted to show you guys, you know, the advantage to leaving some pasture for a cleanup like this. You know, again, this, I don't think I'll have to feed hay tonight, so this is just giving me another half a day, and you know, and I could essentially feed them their normal hay tomorrow, allow them to graze this off tomorrow again, and that'll kind of give me that extra feed going into the really cold temperatures coming up. Everyone be safe tomorrow. Be safe on Saturday. It amazes me, you know, my job, it amazes me every year, the level of stupidity that can happen on New Year's Eve night. It's going to be interesting for us for sure, especially if the snow starts. They haven't quite decided if the snowstorm's coming in early Saturday morning or if it's going to start overnight Friday, but yeah, it's going to be a long night for us regardless, I think. But yeah, everyone just be safe. Even if you're not out partying, if you're on the roads for any reason, just be cognizant of everyone else, because some people do some stupid things. Anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. Here's a blade. Just got that rubber stall mat on there. I'm just going to do a quick little sneak peek. I'm actually going to make a separate video about this just because I kind of talk detail a little bit about it. So stand by for that if it's something you're interested in.